Greetings Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
We're back. Welcome, Mavericks and new viewers. Rise of the New Age of Empires. That's what we're going to, I guess, kind of frame tonight's program around. And that's because of new emerging philosophy, political ideology, statements being made in Russia by Putin's brain, and the actions of Donald Trump, which perplex many, but begin to make sense when you look at it through the lens that we will offer you here tonight on this program. Trump deportations proceeding. The president of Colombia standing up to Trump, and then I don't know if you would call it bending the knee or maybe just modifying the conditions that deportees are being transported back to Colombia under. At first saying he wouldn't accept, well, in fact, he didn't accept some U.S. flights of deportees, and now he's offering up his own presidential jet to have them flown back. I'll tell you why. And politics, Canadian style. It's turning into one heck of a controversial and rocky liberal leadership race. Chandra Arya, who I think moved to Canada from India about 4 years ago, announced he was going to run for the leadership. And we'll tell you what the latest is on a decision by the Liberal Party to bar him from running, which surprises many and opens a whole can of worms, I think, for the Liberal Party. So stay with me. We'll dig into this on the other side of this.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching.
The world is watching. On TV.
The entire world is watching.
On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching. Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay. The world has been upside down, and now it's being churned. And it's being stirred up by Trump, by Putin, by Xi Jinping. We're into a whole new era, a new age of empires. So says philosopher Alexander Dugin today in an interview on Sputnik, the Russian media platform. We'll get into that, but let's take a look at what's been done just in the last day. So Trump's deportations continue. And we saw that Mexico turned one plane around that was filled with immigrants. And then Trump sent more planes down to Colombia. And Colombia also refused to accept them. So let me just here we are here. So Trump says that in response to that, he's ordering tariffs, visa restrictions, and other retaliatory measures to be taken against Colombia because Colombia refused these military flights carrying migrants. And Trump says that these measures are necessary because the decision of Colombian President Gustavo Petro jeopardized national security in the U.S. He says these measures are just the beginning. He posted this on Truth Social. And he says, we will not allow the Colombian government to violate its legal obligations with regard to the acceptance and return of the criminals they forced into the United States. So earlier today, Petro and his government would not accept these flights carrying these migrants, which had been deported from the United States, until the Trump administration created a protocol that treats them with, in Petro's word, dignity. And he made the announcement in 2 X posts, one of which included a news video of migrants reportedly deported to Brazil, walking on a tarmac with restraints on their hands and feet. So, again, I have so many clips up here. So yeah, so here's this initial statement from the Colombian president. And these are some of the direct quotes. So on the left there, you'll see the statement from the president in Spanish. These are translated direct quotes from the statements that he's made over the past 24 hours. He says, a migrant is not a criminal and must be treated with the dignity that a human being deserves. Then he went on to say, the U.S. cannot treat Colombian migrants as criminals. I deny the entry of American planes carrying Colombian migrants into our territory. The United States must establish a protocol for the dignified treatment of migrants before we receive them. And then, in another statement later in the day, he said, the government of Colombia, under the leadership of President Gustavo Petro, this is a government-issued statement, disposed of the presidential plane to facilitate the return of Colombian nationals that were set to arrive in the country this morning. So some media took that to suggest or indicate that the president of Colombia was capitulating, bending the knee, giving up because of Trump's threat to impose tariffs and sanctions on Colombia. Interestingly, the United States does not have a trade deficit with Colombia. I believe they have a trade surplus. So Colombia buys more from the United States than the United States buys from Colombia. So the sanctions are not going to be as effective and will hurt the United States proportionally more than these kinds of economic warfare measures are going to have when applied to other countries where the United States has a trade deficit. So that's an interesting little tidbit. Now, what does Colombia send to the U.S.? They send coffee, flowers, I think some minerals. I'm not entirely sure of all of what their trade exports are, but of course coffee being one of the major ones. But the story has not ended there. So tonight we're seeing that Colombia is now threatening retaliation. Trade measures, trade retaliation. So let me just see here if I can find exactly what they're threatening in terms of retaliatory measures. Because Colombia accepted 475 deportation flights from the United States in 2020. And, from 2020 to 2024. And that was, and they've also been sending flights to Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, El Salvador. So it's not like, that they haven't been sending some of these back, but of course, this is becoming much higher profile. And it's being ramped up in a major way, right? So, yeah, Trump is threatening these trade sanctions, and it isn't really clear from what I'm seeing here tonight exactly what Colombia will do, but a threat has been made to impose counter tariffs and take further economic actions to oppose what Trump is doing here, especially if the U.S. imposes tariffs, sanctions, taxes on Colombia. So, yeah, Trump's going around the world, and he's just like, I'm going to sanction you and tax you and tariff you, and I'm going to tariff you at 25%, and you at 25%, and you at 25%. And he's not, it doesn't seem like he's being terribly selective about it. He is just like a bull in a china shop at this point. And people here in Canada, including Danielle Smith, the Premier of Alberta, they're like, oh, well, we better be careful. We shouldn't be doing, I don't know. It's not just Canada. I told you from the beginning it wasn't just Canada. He's going after like everybody. He's just going around with a great big sledgehammer, bashing here and bashing there. And it's turning into a bloody mess. Better be careful. Better be very, very careful. What goes around comes around, right? Unbelievable. So this is all heating up. And then tonight, Trump was on Air Force One. Doubles down, triples down, quadruples down, quintuples down. How many times has it been now? How many days? He's only been in office, 6, 7 days? And every day, it seems he's making a renewed statement about Canada becoming the 51st state. Said it again today. Went on about it again today on Air Force One in a scrum. I'm going to take a real short break here, come back, and I'll get the information for you on that. And you're going to want to stick around because we have a lot to talk about on the Canadian political front, too. There's lots going on there.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
So yeah, here we go. So Trump on Air Force One. Now I have to give credit to Associated Press here because this is the audio clip coming from them. But he was on Air Force One today, where reporters travel with the president. And aboard Air Force One, he talked about Canada again. And here we go. This is just audio, no video. There's a video still over this, but it's the audio that you really want to pay attention to.
Canada's been treating us very unfairly on trade, and they've taken advantage of us for years. We're not going to allow that to happen. I love Canada. I have so many friends up in Canada, and they like us, and they like me. But Canada's been taking advantage of the United States for years. Without our subsidy, Canada, doesn't exist really. Canada's totally reliant on us. Therefore, they should be a state. Canada, we lose $250 billion a year in Canada. I could stop that in one day, and if I stopped that, Canada wouldn't exist as a state, as a country. If we're going to have to give that kind of subsidy, and we're not even talking about tariffs yet, but that'll happen on February 1st. But if we're going to lose $250 billion for the sake of supporting a country, it's not fair to us. And so I don't want to spend hundreds of billions of dollars on supporting a country unless that country is a state. And if it is a state, the people of Canada would pay a much lower tax. Their taxes would be cut in half. They would have no military problems. They'd be much more secure in every way. And I think it's a great thing for Canada.
Actually, as I sit here tonight, seems to me like we have a military problem. And it's south of the border. This is a direct assault, an attack on our sovereignty. This is an act, frankly, of aggression yet to come. It hasn't been imposed yet. Make no mistake. This is the same treatment that he's giving Russia, China, countries that are adversaries of the United States, and he's treating a friend, an ally, like this. He's treating Denmark like this. He's treating Colombia like this. He's treating Mexico like this. It is not just Canada. I don't really want to be part of a country like that anyway. Frankly, a big, powerful superpower that just throws its weight around like that. That's not the America that I've known. Even though people have accused the United States of that, and even though the United States has made mistakes, and they've had some lapses in judgment from presidents and leaders, especially since World War II, overall, the The United States, in my view, has been a force for good and for real freedom. Not always, but overall. And that has been the, the overarching goal of what the United States is supposed to be about, has been about, in my view, the shining city on a hill. But that's not this. This is authoritarianism. Trump has displayed, in my view, a very autocratic, authoritarian approach to governing this time, coming into office, signing those 200 executive orders. That is not changed through new legislation, compromise, debate, a legal process through which new legislation is crafted and then debated and then enacted on behalf of and through and for the people. This is one guy with a Sharpie, 200 new laws instantly upon taking office. That is an autocracy. And it's very authoritarian, and I would suggest not very American. And all of these pardons from both Biden and Trump, one departing office, the other coming in, it shows that it's an assault on the rule of law, because it's the president saying, whatever, you get out of jail free and you get out of jail free, and here's a get out of jail free card for you, and here's another one for you, and some of these, I'm sorry, but some of the J6 people did assault police officers. Some of them did engage in bad behavior. And Trump's just like, just let them all out. No discretion there. No nuance, just an across the board blanket, you get out of jail free card for all of them. How do you back the blue when, or say that you're in favor of law enforcement or even the rule of law, if you're going to let everybody out, including some people who really did and engage in criminal activity? And I don't know if, but I think each case needs to be examined in a situation like that. And the same thing with Biden. Afraid of this and afraid of that, and letting his son off with a pardon. Preemptively letting people off for crimes that they may or may not have committed. And, because he's so afraid of the incoming president, who clearly doesn't have much respect for the rule of law, that he has to give preemptive pardons to people that he thinks that the incoming president might seek revenge upon. And then the people who are, blindly following Trump no matter what he does, sit there and say, well, if they accept that pardon, that's an absolute, that shows that that they did commit a crime. That's not true either. There's too much extremism on both sides. And what's going on, I've said for a while, there's something seriously wrong, especially since he took office. Something seriously wrong. This is not the United States. This is not the shining city on a hill that Ronald Reagan envisioned. This is not Reagan republicanism, Reagan conservatism. This is not what this is. This is something completely new, completely different. Oh, yes, it is. And it's dark. And I would say that to some degree, this is coming from the emergence of a new kind of philosophy that is not exclusive to, but has been present, and I've spoken about it here on this program. Dugianism, Eurasianism, fourth political theory. It's the convergence of communism and fascism, sort of taking the worst of both and smashing them together in an attempt to defeat what they see as the enemy, being liberalism. And Dugin today, this Russian philosopher, who is described by some as Vladimir Putin's brain, today on Sputnik in an interview says that Trump's rise marks the start of a new age of empires. This reflects very much what I have been saying here for the last while. I said it's kind of like Trump and Putin he's gonna make deals with Putin. He's a great deal maker. And what they're doing is it's like they're carving up the world into new big chunks. It's not like it isn't quite like what the Democrats have been saying, where it's like Russia, Russia, Russia. It's not that this is not a traditional conflict, you see, between or struggle between the two superpowers. This is not like the Cold War. This is not post-World War II Cold War, and it's not like it was before the fall of the Soviet Union. It certainly is not what we've seen since then, post-Soviet Union. This is the development, the evolution of something different. This is the creation of new empires. It's not even regular nationalism. It is a war on liberalism, which embodies or is represented largely by these organizations like the World Health Organization, the World Economic Forum, these kinds of organizations that are global in scope, less so, but even including the United Nations, any kind of organization with a sort of a global governance overview, like a one government overseeing many nations. And that to some people would include maybe even NATO, because it's a multi-nation organization, you see. So we've had since World War II a large superpower like the United States dominating an organization like NATO. But the reason that was done after World War II was to help prevent the proliferation of nuclear weapons. So rather than have all these nations then racing in a global arms race to get nukes, everybody just said, okay, USA and a few other NATO countries will have the nukes. Russia ended up getting the technology as well. So it was like NATO and the US on one side, Russia on the other, but it stopped. Or at least that was the goal. Prevent all these other countries from trying to get the nukes, because NATO then became a defensive organization saying, you don't need nukes, we'll take care of everything. And the United States was the biggest country, and with that came an obligation to protect the little guys so that they didn't need nukes. That's what Zelensky has been saying in Ukraine. They gave up their nuclear weapons after the fall of the Soviet Union. They had the third largest nuclear stockpile. The United States went in there and with Russia, and they said, hey, let's get these things out of here. You can have your country, you can have your sovereignty, but let's get rid of these nukes because we don't want this to spread anyplace. And you guys, neither side will invade you. That was the Budapest Memorandum. We'll take care of you, the United States said. We'll respect your border. And Russia said the same thing. Just give up the nukes. So they got rid of them. And the United States has an obligation there, just like Russia did. But Russia hasn't honored that memorandum. They didn't. They said, Putin said, nope, we don't recognize it. Doesn't matter. Ukraine belongs to us. And he created this narrative around it about NATO expansionism and blah, 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 blah. But if you listen to Dugin, his brain, the man behind the fourth political theory, it's all laid out in there. And he's talking about it again today on Sputnik. And you see, this is why people can't quite wrap their head around this. Dugin, and even Putin, they see the United States, well, less so Putin right now because things have gone south. But there's this idea that they were at war with the Democrats and liberalism in the United States, not so much MAGA and Trump. They don't see Dugin sees the United States under Trump as an ally of Russia. It's just that Ukraine is this inconvenient thing. And Dugin's worldview and what he teaches is that Ukraine isn't even a legitimate country and that it really just belongs to Russia. Historically, going back along, it's just, and it has no real significance. It's just a creation of a corrupt West. And so it should just belong to Russia. And it's part of his idea for an expansionist Russia spreading out across Europe. This is his vision for Eurasianism, an expanding Russia, which he sees as Russia's destiny. It's just inevitable. It's just going to happen. And that might sound great for some people, but not so great if you're Ukrainian. And he says that the United States and Russia could really get along and could actually be friends, especially with Trump. And it probably will only take a year or two for things to come around. Ukraine's just a little, you just put that on the shelf. But the only way that we can have peace with them and be friends is just you got to let them have Ukraine. See, which really kind of goes against everything that they've been saying, that it's NATO expansionism that was the reason for invading Ukraine. No, it's exactly what I'm telling you. They just envision Ukraine as it's the key piece of geography, the key piece of land that Russia needs in order to assert itself again as an expanding imperial power. And it's just inevitable. So, and they need to defeat liberalism. Here he is in the interview with Sputnik. Of course, there are other aspects to this whole issue as well, clearly, but here he is here. Just listen to this, and you'll see.
We have very much in common now with the Trumpists government, and Ukraine is the kind of obstacle in our relations. I doubt that we could easily and resolve this problem soon. And the later we start peace talk, the better, I think. Maybe it will take 1 year or maybe 2 years. And I would suggest to Trump, that is very positively seen from Russian, Putin's Russia, above all by our conservatives. We share many things with American conservatives, but I would suggest to put that on the shelf, the Ukrainian problem, and to concentrate on something much more of life importance for Trumpism. And Ukraine certainly is not the part of existential interests of the United States. It's very far territory that has no meaning. That is inertia. That was started by globalists who are and who were, who will be. Well, that's important. The main enemies of Trump, Putin and Russia. We are not enemy of Trump. We don't threat. We don't represent any menace to United States, the American interests. We just neutral. But Ukraine should be ours. That's all.
Yeah, so too bad for Ukraine. Ukraine should just be theirs. And Ukraine doesn't mean anything to the United States. Yes, it does. It means everything because it's all about individualism. It's about everything that the United States was really predicated on when it was created as a nation, as an independent nation, not as an empire, but as an independent nation state separate from Britain. Not an expanding global. Originally, that's what the United States was about. Things have become perverted And it's because of philosophy and ideology like this. Ukraine does matter. What the people of Ukraine want matters. I've heard professors like Professor Mearsheimer say it doesn't matter what NATO thinks. It doesn't matter what the people of Ukraine, what Ukraine thinks. All that matters is what Russia thinks. It doesn't matter how the United States views the conflict there. It only matters what Russia thinks because Russia, it feels like they're threatened. That's what he says. But it does matter. It matters a lot what the people of Ukraine want. Just because one country is bigger than another country doesn't mean that the smaller country shouldn't have the right to exist. And that goes, I would say, in the Middle East too, with the conflict between Israel and Palestine. What people want, what they need, matters. Especially if you're weaker than the big dog. Especially if you're smaller and less powerful than Godzilla. Especially if you've been playing by the rules and not engaging in the pursuit of nuclear weapons in order to stem the proliferation of such weapons of mass destruction. And contributing. And the United States has benefited from NATO and the alliance. And it has benefited from its relationship with Canada, its alliance with Canada, because we've been friendly. And we do trade back and forth, and Trump's numbers are way off. The $250 billion a year that they subsidize, they do not. So that is just demonstrably not true. It's just not true. Hey, Trumpinator, stuff it. Like, seriously, man, stick it. You're so full of shit. Like, really, I'm just so tired of the crap and the lies and the bigotry. Yeah, maybe wrong reply. I don't know if that's directed at me, maybe, but I'm tired of it. And so at a certain point, it's just, I got to say, I just don't give a damn. Yeah. And I'm not banning you there, Trumpinator, even though you're an idiot or a propagandist, troll. So you just keep on showing people how ignorant you are and how impolite. Keep going. Night after night after night. Yeah, so Dugan says, and I've told you this before, they see MAGA, right-wing governments in Europe, in the United States, as being aligned with them on the Russian side. That's how Dugan sees this, because they appeal to his philosophy, his ideology is very much in line with very orthodox, conservative kinds of views culturally. And the goal here is to defeat liberalism. That's his stated goal. He also states that for Russia, expansionism is an existential necessity. Necessity. And so that's what's in play right now over in Ukraine. And now with Trump, we're getting this same kind of approach to the world. And that's why Trump 2.0, in part, is feeling so much different than the first incarnation of the Trump administration, because Trump sees this, and he sees that Russia is an expanding power, that they have an expansionist agenda, that when they're saying, oh no, we're not really interested in going any further than Ukraine, he knows it's a lie. And that's also, I think, why you're seeing him push back now. Now that he's in office and he's getting the actual intelligence, and he's getting and people around him now in the military who are giving him actual information, and it's not just, and he doesn't need to worry about being reelected. You're seeing his tone on Ukraine change quite a bit instantly, saying that, yeah, Zelensky wants to come to the table. Putin doesn't seem to really want to make a deal. And he's been critical of Putin now. And he's going around threatening sanctions. This is the weapon that he's using, is economic warfare, economic pressure against both his friends and his foes. I don't like what you're doing. 25% on you, and 25% on you, and 25% on you. And it just goes on. And that's why, and he's serious. I told you 2 years ago when these other streamers were coming online saying, like, you know, people like Jackson Hinkle, who's a self-proclaimed communist and talks about MAGA communism, hence the fusion, fascism, communism, because you've got people on the other side of the spectrum as well, on the edges of what MAGA is about. And then I said, these people talking about this, they're serious. They want Canada. Canada's in play. It was kind of hard to see exactly what was going on, but it was this. And then Tucker Carlson saying, yeah, Mr. Prime Minister, as he phones the PMO's office, and he's coming to Canada. He says, I'm coming to Canada to liberate your country. And I said, I don't think he's joking. And then when Trump came out and right out and said it, I said, he's not joking. I don't think he's joking. And people, oh, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. Oh, yeah, it's a joke, right? No, it's not a damn joke. And here's Dugan with further talk about the new age of empires as these new emperors, I guess, are carving up the world.
We now paradoxically, we are in the age of competing types of monarchies. So the dreams and illusions of liberal democracy are over, and we should not choose monarchy or not monarchy. We are obliged to choose this kind of monarchy, of other kind of monarchy, American monarchy, Russian monarchy, Chinese monarchy. So let us begin to think in the terms of empires. Yeah. And the only problem, if we start to think in the terms of empires, we need to find our own empire and try to make it sovereign, independent, powerful and great. So the idea of MAGA, Make America Great Again, could be applied to make Europe great again, European empire. Make Russia great again, Russian empire. Make China great again. Make India great again. Make Africa great again. Why not? So I think we are entering with Trump, this time for sure, in the age of empires. And I personally agree with Curtis Yarvin that it is the solution, because otherwise the democratic procedures could be very, very easily rigged by globalists and oligarchs, and they will counterattack for sure Trump. And I would wish to him to be on the same wave of victory with, say, dynamism, promoting his ideological anti-globalist agenda and implementing alternative political system in the United States. That would be great.
It's just a different vision, but it's still a new world order. And that's why these BRICS nations and Putin has really come out and they've even used those same words. It's a new world order. I keep telling you, this is the new world order. This is the rise of oligarchs. This is a new age of empires. And this is the new multipolar geopolitical reality beginning to take shape. This is the big powerful nations the superpowers, Russia, the United States mainly, which Dugin in his writings envisions as dominating sort of each half of the globe, but also he's revised his over the years his vision of this, and now China, which he used to see as a major adversary, he's more conciliatory toward them, and so there's another block in Asia that will become a power block, an empire again. This is what it is. And this is what Trump is playing into. And he knows about this stuff. And that's why you're seeing him say, I'm going to take Canada, I'm going to take Greenland from Denmark. There's a larger game afoot here, folks, and Canada is in play. I'm not going to ban you, Trumpinator. I'm not going to. Yeah, he says, Rick, Trump is no dictator. People voted for this. Did they? Are you sure they voted for this? Some of this, yes. What's in those 200 executive orders? Do you even know? Democracy doesn't come from the tip of a Sharpie. And this is not good because they have not defeated liberalism. They haven't defeated the Democrats indefinitely. Trump's win was not that decisive. He did win all the swing states, but not by massive margins. The country is still largely divided, and public opinions ebb and flow over time. They shift. The Overton window politically shifts. People's attitudes change. Society changes over time. 4 years from now, people could have a very different outlook on politics, and you could have a Democrat back in the White House. Unless democracy is disposed of, which is what some people have been very afraid of. And there is actually, I don't have it handy here, but there is a movement afoot to make sure that Trump gets another 4 years on top of this. It's already being proposed, and maybe more. And he jokes about it all the time. But is he joking? And all he has to do to get Canadians to run to him is say, I'll cut your taxes. Pierre Poilievre is ready to cut taxes, and people are like, I don't know if I trust him. But the issues are much larger than a tax cut. But when Trump offers it up, hey, let's just give him the whole country. A year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, people would be like, we don't want to give up all of our resources. This is our future for our children. And he says we won't have to worry about the military. You'll have to worry about the military if there's a war. You don't have any say over that. These are much more complicated issues. As a Canadian, we've made our own decisions on when we go and when we don't go to war. And Tanvir says Greenland isn't a joke. No, it's not a joke. Not at all. But, you know, people seem to sit around, and even when they're serious about these issues, they joke about it. In fact, here's Ted Cruz talking about taking over Greenland. He says the threat to take over Greenland is a very serious policy proposal. And then he says in this that he responded to the Danish ambassador to the U.S. who told him Greenland isn't for sale. And then he's like, well, everything has its price. Here, let me show you. And look at the attitude. Like, I've always kind of liked Ted Cruz, but there's like this strange mass formation psychosis going on where people have become insensitive, disrespectful, arrogant, even downright mean. And it's evident here in the way that he talks about Greenland, and look at the response that he gets from the guys also in this video. They're laughing about this, and it's not funny.
Greenland, on the other hand, I think is a very serious policy proposal.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I had a conversation this week with the Danish ambassador to the United States. And look, Denmark's a little freaked out by all this conversation.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what I told the ambassador. I said, listen, Denmark is our friend. You are our ally. You will continue to be our friend and ally. But friends and allies can have conversation. And the ambassador said, well, Greenland's not for sale. I said, that's fine. Everything's for sale. We're going to have a conversation. And by the way, if you maintain that, one of the things this has produced is a growing independence movement in Greenland.
Totally.
And if you do nothing, you may end up getting nothing for Greenland because they break off on their own.
Totally.
Right.
I find it quite plausible that the Greenlanders, about 50,000 of them, would say, wait a second, I get to be an American?
Their poll just showed positive results. They just did a survey there.
To become an American is in many ways the greatest gift we can give anyone on planet Earth. Greenland, on
It's not funny. Not funny to the people of Greenland, certainly not funny to the government of Denmark, not funny, I think, to a lot of other people around the world. It's not a laughing matter. Ha 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 ha. Oh, everything's for sale. There's just no respect there. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. When you're the big guy, you need to protect the little guy. You need to have some compassion. And you need to respect other people, human beings, other countries. This is not good. And in the long run, the United States will suffer for this if he continues down this path. Because this is dark. It's very dark. It's very authoritarian, heavy-handed. Very, very heavy-handed. And it's dangerous because we've seen what authoritarian governments in the past have done, and we've seen how history judges them. Not kindly. Because it never has a good outcome. And in this case, nothing good will come of this. Nothing. Nothing good will come of this in the end. I hope that he softens up and begins to treat friends like friends again. It is actually scary. Stay with me.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
All right. Canada's kind of split on this whole thing. Here's an example of a post on X tonight. And the way that people are responding to this behavior from Trump. True Dat is what this is called here. It says, I just got back from the grocery shopping. I'm pleased to report not one item in my cart was from the USA. I was able to substitute them all, starting with Bix Pickles and moving on down the aisle. I am Canadian, and I am happy to support every other country in the world with my business. See? Instant backlash. And I did the exact same thing just the other day. Was it yesterday or the day before when I was at the hardware store? Yeah. Picked up a product. It had a Made in USA emblem on the back of the package, and I put it back on the shelf. And I've been one of the biggest defenders of the US of A like all my life. I've always said I love the United States, still do. I was, very optimistic about what Trump was doing or was on the path to doing the first time he was in office. I was very optimistic about where this might go. And now this. You lose me, man, you've got a problem. Because I was hopeful. But this ain't right. Bring me back Ronald Reagan, please. And the thing is, this seems to be, at the moment, very popular. Trump gaining support in the United States. He's in his political honeymoon period, but you wait, this ain't gonna hold. Look at what's going on CNN. Even they're jumping on the Trump bandwagon, it seems.
This is a very different Donald Trump. He's leading a very different administration the way he's attacking things, and the American public is very much more in line with him than they were at any point during his entire first term.
I would say, correction, this is not a very different Donald Trump. This is a very different Donald Trump as being viewed by voters in this
In the way he's going about things with Susan Wiles leading things, I think he is, going at things in a much less disorganized fashion, much more organized.
Take me back in history.
Take you back in history. So it was so interesting to me that Donald Trump's first net approval rating of his second term is higher than his entire first term. And I was interested, has that ever happened? Has the second term net approval rating in the first month, have you ever had a higher rating than any net approval rating during the entire first term? Donald Trump is the only...
I have a really hard time believing this.
This is 100% true. I went back. I love spreadsheets. Donald Trump's is the first guy ever whose net approval rating in the first month of his second term is higher than any rating that he had in an entire first term, Kate Baldwin. This is true. I don't make stuff up. The numbers are the numbers.
I believe you in nothing except when you have it in the wall, and then I believe everything you say.
That's exactly right.
Which is why...
Yeah, the numbers are the numbers are the numbers are the numbers. But that's the way politics goes. It's politicians come in, they're popular in the beginning, although this is his second go around, but this is Trump 2.0. So he's got his little honeymoon period here. But as the impact from what he's doing begins to set in and we see what happens, we'll see how much success he has and how this affects people. And then over time, things change. How will they change? Only time will tell. So we're watching and waiting. And I continue to hope. And here's Alberta's premier, who I'm still of the mind that she she was in error. It was a mistake for her to show Canada's hand in this political poker game, this trade poker game that Trump is engaged in, when she just went down to Mar-a-Lago and said, "Don't worry, Mr. President, we'll make sure that you keep on getting our oil. No way, that's off the table." And while Trudeau and while every other first minister across the country from all political parties are saying, "Oh no, everything's on the table," but not so with Danielle Smith. Anyway, here she is now with this new piece on Question Period, CTV.
I know you talked about a proportionate response. Much of the debate has focused on, the sort of nuclear option, that being adding an export tax to energy that we send to the United States, or even blocking that energy altogether. I know that you have argued that it's not logical, and that you would very much oppose that. Steve Verhoeven, who was our negotiator during the initial round of renegotiating NAFTA essentially a number of years ago, said that you've undermined Canada's negotiating position this time around. Doesn't he have a point?
I think we have to have a realistic argument. You really shouldn't threaten to do things that you can't do. And when you think about the potential, if the Americans took the same viewpoint, that they were going to cut off energy exports into Eastern Canada, that would be absolutely devastating, because the vast majority of the gasoline and energy products that Eastern Canada gets come by way of the United States. So I don't think that that's a productive way to engage in the discussion. What I would prefer for us to do, have a proportionate response, absolutely, but then let's start working on ways to get back to that tariff-free relationship. You can make that argument from every single provincial perspective. You can make the argument in terms of the costs that are going to go up for American consumers, and I think that's going to be our pressure point. When you look at the members of Congress and the governors, they certainly know that most of them have their principal trade relationship with Canada, and it goes both ways. And so I think leveraging those relationships are going to be able to make the case. If we can get some of those voices standing up and saying this is a bad idea, I think we'll be able to get through whatever tariff war we have, hopefully fast, hopefully avoid it altogether.
What's striking to me, though, is how silent they all are. Nobody is coming to our defense. Nobody appears to be advocating for us on the inner circle of Trump at the moment. And that wasn't necessarily the case 6 or 7 or 8 years ago. And so I'll ask again, I do get the logistics of what you're saying, and maybe it doesn't end up being something that can necessarily come to fruition. But why would we come to a fight with the thing that we have the most leverage with, like one arm tied behind us? Like, what is the point of taking that off the table? And are you doing that just to advance your own political interest domestically?
Well, Albertans don't want to see another equalization program. Let's be very clear about what an export tariff is. It means putting a tax on Canadian goods so that all the dollars go to Ottawa, so that Ottawa can use those dollars to redistribute to other provinces. And we've seen that newsreel before. We saw it with the way equalization works, but more in our history, the way Pierre Trudeau dealt with our province, and it created national unity problems. This is not a time that while we're having a fight with our biggest trading partner, that we also have a fight with each other. I would say let's focus on the things that we can agree on together. Let's take a Team Canada approach. Let's maybe get the Energy East pipeline back on the rails so that our Eastern Canadian friends don't have to rely on the U.S. for this vital fuel. Let's talk about more ways to get pipelines to the West Coast so that we can diversify our markets and be able to support our friends in Japan and Korea and elsewhere. I think that that's a more constructive conversation to have. If we're going to have this temporary or maybe even more permanent problem with our U.S. partner, we've got to be looking at new markets, and we would be far better off working together rather than putting forward policies that are only going to divide us.
And look, I've asked the federal government on I don't even know how many occasions over the last number of years about those extra markets and building capacity to them. But even putting that aside for a moment, we're in the moment we're in. I've also asked ministers in the past week if they would do the same thing that people are threatening over oil with auto exports, which would have a equally proportionate impact on Ontario. And they said yes. Like they're not making it a national unity crisis, aren't you?
I don't think that will happen, first of all. And second of all...
But they're not taking it off the table. That's the point, right? Maybe logistically, like you say, both are not really great options, but they're not saying, no, I would never do that.
Well, I think the problem that we saw is that we were getting together as a group of premiers and the Prime Minister saying, let's not negotiate this in public. And I did my part saying, let's focus on the things that we know the Americans care about, national security and border security. And everybody else went off freelancing. And the thing they kept returning to was punishing Alberta and punishing energy. So I just wanted to make sure that we get back to talking about the things that unite us rather than divide us. And so Albertans are just simply not going to accept an export tax on this product. They're not going to accept the federal government blocking the export of this vital product. And I don't think that demonstrates to the Americans that we are a reliable trading partner, which is what we are trying to do. Let's find new markets. 100% on board with that. Now that we've got Trans Mountain, we have the ability to not only increase the amount that goes through that pipe, but also find new markets with it. Right now, most of it is going to the United States on the West Coast. Maybe we should start signing deals with India, with Spain, and with other jurisdictions. So I think that that's a far more constructive way for us to talk about how we can work together as a country. Same with all of our critical minerals. I mean, Saskatchewan provides 20% of the world's supply of uranium. You've heard David Eby talk about germanium being one of the key products that they have up in Northwest Territories. They have an immense opportunity on lithium. Those can go anywhere. Those can go on a rail car, those can go on a ship, and those can go anywhere around the world. And everybody wants them. So why don't we talk about ways we can support each other on finding those new markets? I think it's a far more a constructive way of approaching it.
Just one final question. I mean, to your point, the federal government bought TMX. The reason that oil is getting elsewhere is because the federal government used not just Albertans' taxpayer dollars, but taxpayer dollars from across the country so that the entire country could benefit it. Wouldn't that be the same approach, looking to take, just leaving the specter of what can happen with oil exports on the table? Once again, like, instead of demonstrating, you know, the disparity and stuff like that, wouldn't we be demonstrating that we're not willing to be walked all over?
I think that TMX provides the exact example of why we need more of that kind of pipeline infrastructure, so that we can have more markets, so that we have more control over our own destiny, so that we can reduce the differential, because we're not facing gluts of one product only going to one customer. In fact, I wish we'd been able to build Energy East and Northern Gateway. I wish we'd been able to build more natural gas pipelines. But I think that TMX offers a prime example of how the entire country can benefit when we work together on those kinds of nation-building infrastructure projects. So I'd like to see more of that.
Then why are you pitting Alberta against the rest of the country in this instance? The rest of the country helped out with TMX to benefit Albertans and everyone.
Well, then let's benefit from it. Let's make sure that we get the highest value for our product internationally, because we have more customers to sell it to. I think people need to learn the right lesson out of what happened with that. We had 125 billion projects in Alberta canceled because of the uncertainty that happened in the regulatory environment. We could have been so much further ahead. But the fact that Coastal GasLink got built and we're about to do LNG export, that TMX finally got built, and it's had a major impact on that differential. Those are two success stories, and we should build on that. We should do more of that.
Opinions vary. And right now, we just don't seem to have a whole lot of time or a lot of options, because we've allowed ourselves to, rely too much on our great relationship with the United States. We took it for granted. We've taken everything for granted too much, frankly, including our own darn country. That's why there's this story today. Look at this one on Global. Canada must take responsibility for its sovereignty, Defense Chief says. Canada's Chief of Defense says the next Prime Minister needs to pay attention to our defense and to take responsibility for Canada's territorial integrity, pointing to other countries whose sovereignties have been breached these past few years. U.S. President Donald Trump's complaints about Canada's military spending and capabilities have underscored the need for Ottawa to prioritize defense, though General Jenny Kerrigan says work was already underway to speed up investments and procurement before Trump took office last week. Yeah, bottom line is, if you go back to World War I, Canada punched above its weight. Some say that Canada in World War I, because of the sacrifices made there and the incredible contributions that the country made to defeating Germany, that was the moment at which Canada became not just a country, but an actual nation. Some people today say Canada still needs to become its own nation, that we're not a nation, that we're just a country. And some people are even at it again, trying to say that Canada isn't even a real country. But Canada has been a nation in evolution over time. I know there's this video going around talking about how Canada isn't a real country. And it's getting traction out there. I've talked about this many times over the past few years. But, Canada is a real country. And those who challenge that really just are exploiting the reality that any legal document can be challenged and is always open to some sort of interpretation. Canada in itself has been a country in evolution, originally, a colony of Britain, and then the British North America Act, and then the Westminster Act in the 1930s, and then finally the patriation of the Constitution in 1982. And those who seek to do harm to our country, I would say, and tear it down, are out there again actively saying that there's this hole, and this language shows that there is really no country, that Canada doesn't have sovereignty, and it is really not true. It's incorrect to say that the Constitution and the Charter of Rights are illegitimate, because the Constitution Act of 1982, which includes the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and here it is, was the result of a process known as patriation. And this process legally transferred the authority to amend Canada's Constitution from the British Parliament to Canada itself, thus making Canada fully independent in constitutional matters. And the patriation was done with the consent of the Canadian federal government and most provinces through the Canada Act of 1982, which was passed by both the UK Parliament and the Canadian Parliament. And this act legally confirmed the transfer of constitutional authority to Canada. The Charter was part of this act, giving Canadians constitutional protections of rights and freedoms, which was a significant step in defining Canada's national identity and legal framework. And there are all kinds of different arguments out there about why it's not legitimate. Some would say it's because we didn't have unanimous consent from all the provinces, Quebec, of course, being the outlier, not signing. But we had 9 out of 10. And legally, we moved forward. And while Queen Elizabeth II, and now King Charles III, remains Canada's constitutional monarch, the role is largely symbolic. Real political power actually does lie with elected officials, the Prime Minister and Parliament. The monarchy's role in Canada is more ceremonial, with the Governor-General acting on behalf of the Crown in Canada. Canada operates as a constitutional monarchy, where the monarch's powers are defined and limited by the Constitution. Unlike an absolute monarchy, the system ensures democratic governance while maintaining historical ties. Indeed, the powers of the monarch are actually limited by not only the Canadian Constitution, but also Britain's, the Constitution in the UK. There's only so much the king can actually do. He's not an absolute monarch. Since 1982, Canada has had full control over its constitutional amendments, which is a clear indicator of sovereignty. We don't need to go to the UK to amend this constitution. Canadians can do it through the amendment formula, and we don't need the approval of anybody, just the people. The people who are misleading you will tell you otherwise. And the fact that the Constitution was once in Britain does not negate this. Many nations have historical ties to former colonial powers without losing legitimacy. Canada's identity is defined by its multiculturalism, bilingualism, and distinct political culture. The nation's legitimacy is based on its governance, legal system, and the will of its people, not merely on the absence or presence of a monarchy. You follow those people who want to tear it down, and you'll miss this place when it's gone. Now, many countries have evolved from being colonies to independent nations while retaining certain symbolic ties to their past rulers. This does not undermine their status as nations. With these people who say Canada is just a corporation, or that it doesn't really have sovereignty, or that it's given up its allodial title to the land, blah, 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 blah. It's basically misinformation or a misunderstanding or a deliberate distortion of the legal language, of the constitutional law, and the nature of modern monarchies. Canada's very real. The danger is that any government, however, is only functional and only exists if the people support it, whether it's a dictatorship, a democracy, a communist government, or whatever. Any country, any government can only exist if the people support it. And from that evolves this idea of a social contract, which is not written. It's just that it's like a deal. It's like you as the government, you act in a legitimate fashion and you provide the services and the supports that we as the people need or want. You represent us in exchange for the taxes that we pay. And we'll support you. We'll make sure that we abide by the rule of law. In a free society, we have the rule of law. But those people who seek to undermine everything that our country has been based on, the most successful, by far, kind of society that has ever come through in history, those people who seek to tear it down, they distort the facts. They just want to see it gone because they're not really telling you what it is that they want to bring on the other side. I just caution you, there is stuff going around again right now, a direct assault on Canada. And it's not an accident. This is all happening at the same time for a reason. It's because some people have a larger plan in place. What's going on with Trump? What's the propaganda that's out there right now saying again that Canada isn't a real thing, right? Any country only exists because the people believe in it. And any legal document can be challenged. That's why when you go to court and you get a ruling from a jury, not every member of the jury may agree with the way that the evidence is being interpreted, and so you can end up with a split jury, a hung jury. You might get a unanimous decision from a jury. When you go to the Supreme Court in, say, the United States, and they're ruling on a constitutional issue, you don't always get unanimous decisions from all of the judges on the Supreme Court. Some view it this way, some view it that way, and then they get a majority of judges ruling in a particular way, and that's the way the ruling goes. But it's not always unanimous. That's because legal documents, even constitutions, are open to interpretation. And so the people who seek to tear down our country choose to interpret the language in this as illegitimate and say that therefore the country's not a real place. But it sure as heck is. And it isn't just the language in the Constitution that decides whether a country is a real place, a real thing. It's you and me. Every day we get up and we drive on the roads. We go to the parks. We pay our taxes. We get our health care. We engage in the activities and even the commerce of a country. They pick up my garbage every week. That's a social contract or a deal that even goes beyond a social contract. It's a real arrangement. It's, they do this, we do that. They take care of the country and make sure that it's secure, that, the borders are respected. And we as citizens support the government. But if you convince enough people that something isn't real, it ceases to be real when the thing that they're thinking about is only a human construct anyway, because a nation state is just an idea. That's why Donald Trump said the other day, he referred to the border between Canada and the United States as an artificial line. It's like it's not a real thing. It shows that he doesn't have any respect for Canada, and he doesn't recognize us as a true country. Because to him, we don't have a military. We're not big enough. We're not powerful enough. Our economy isn't large enough. The United States, in his mind, subsidizes us to exist. So why should they bother? But it isn't true. We do have internationally recognized borders, and because of the social contract that existed between various nation states after World War II, the United States had an obligation as the world superpower, especially after the fall of the Soviet Union, as the world's only real superpower, to respect and even protect its smaller, weaker allies. Even though we supported them and contribute back to them through NATO, through military spending, through peaceful interaction, through trade, not just us, but all of the alliances, allies of the United States. But as soon as Godzilla departs from that social contract between nation states and says, well, we're the biggest, we're the most powerful, we have all the money, we have all the cards, we have all the nukes, we have all the F-35s, or way more than everybody else, so we don't have to listen to you. And you know what? We're just tired of paying for everything. So we're not going to protect you. We're not going to take care of you unless you do what we say. And you know what? We're just going to take you over. We're just going to assimilate you, annex you. We'll just take you in. We'll just annex Canada, and then all your resources would be ours. We're going to take that water from BC and we're going to make sure that it flows down into LA because we've got wildfires to fight. But more importantly, or just as importantly, we've got farmland that we need to irrigate. And we're going to do with all that Canadian water. And once you become the 51st state, we'll just take it for California. And all that Alberta oil that we say we don't really need right now, we're going to want it later. It's just that right now we're telling Saudi Arabia that they have to do what we say too, or so says Donald Trump. And they better bring the price of oil down so that we can deal with that war in Ukraine. But then when the price goes back up and it becomes cost effective again to pump that oil out of the tar sands in Canada, we're going to want that oil too. So we'll just take that. And there's nothing you can do about it, because you've just got a liberal prime minister up there who's got fancy socks, and I don't like him very much. And you should just join us and we'll just give you lower taxes, and then you can just give us your whole damn country. You might feel about it in a different way in a few years, though, folks. You're going to miss it when it's gone. And Donald Trump, he's just a politician. Maybe even less than that in some ways, especially when I see what he's doing with his stupid meme coins. This pump and dump scheme, unbelievable. Whole bunch of money made, and a lot of people losing a lot of money, but that's a whole other story. Nothing classy about that. What is, like, my God, what the hell is going on? And the people, people are cheering for it. There's something wrong out there, and that includes Mr. Trumpinator in there too. There's something wrong over there psychologically, because I've seen this descent down into this deep, dark, black hole over the last few years. I've warned people about it. I started warning people about it like nearly 3 years ago with the whole narrative of like the globalists and the New World Order and substituted language, really, that is, steeped in a lot of it coming from even Alex Jones, a lot of it, and it's restructured, repurposed language that has been designed to suck people into a dark place. And we've seen the normalization of, well, the swastika. I called
someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching.
The world is watching. On TV,
The entire world is watching.
on social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
All right, we're back, folks, and looks like my microphone is working again. Something went haywire there. I don't know how long I was muted, but I apologize for that. And John from out in Alberta is on the line with us. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, you're Rimby, John Scotty. Your mic, it wasn't muted that long, Rick, actually. So
Good. Well, thank you for everybody who notified me.
So, anyways, Rick, everything's good. Let's just give Trump his due, of course. Canada's strong and going to be good, along with Alberta, Ontario, West Coast to East Coast. I forgot the other night, and I apologize. Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. We need to include them in everything too. So.
Yep.
No, it's gonna. I think you got to calm down a little bit.
No,
It's
I
all
don't.
going to be good.
No, I don't. I don't need to calm down at all. In fact, maybe I need to hype it up a little bit more because this is ridiculous. John, he's talking about it again today. He's on about it again today on Air Force One. He can stuff it. Sorry.
Well,
Nope. He needs to shut his mouth. He's got a great big. He's got a big mouth. This guy. He's got a big mouth, and he's acting like a tough guy. Okay, yeah, you got nukes. I don't give a damn. Go ahead. I'm tired of it. He's picking fights with everybody. This guy. Everybody.
Well,
it's going to come back and bite him on the butt. Nope. Gets no slack from me on this, John.
Yeah,
this is my country.
Okay.
John, this is my country. And this is my country, John.
It's mine too.
Back the hell off, Donald Trump. Back the hell off. Hands off Canada.
Where was our federal government with
No,
Pierre
hands off
Trudeau?
Canada. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter,
no
John.
military?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. He's got no business up here. It's not his country. Hands off. Period.
Well,
That's it.
We've heavily relied upon the United States of America
they've relied on us
defense.
too. They rely on us too because it's our country, it's our Arctic, and we give them access happily and cooperatively. We've worked with them to maintain defense for a long time, a long time. And what's going on right now? This ain't cool. This is not cool. Unacceptable.
Well, it's beyond a joke, Rick, and it never was a joke.
Never was.
The sad part about it with
And
Tucker Carlson.
And John, that's why I need to ramp it up, because I need to sound the alarm here, as I've been doing for 2 years, telling people this is not a joke. I've been trying to tell people for 2 years. And even when it started to happen, people are still like, oh, it's not real. There's too much complacency here. And people are of the mind like it can't really happen in Canada because we've never had anything like this happen in Canada. But it's happening to Canada. It's happening. The country is under attack from various sides, and it's not just the United States. It's not just
Rick,
Trump.
I'm going to ask Canadians a good question. Why was Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland part of the Klaus Schwab World Economic Forum and Turtle Island and putting this country into a free play for grabs. And you were,
John,
and I
let me
admire you.
let me
You
give
were
you a
talking
little
that 2
John.
years ago.
John, what is the World Economic Forum? What is it?
Well, they're a bunch of basically allegedly Nazi globalists.
What do they do?
Well, they want to steal all our wealth, and they have everything.
How,
we have
what do
nothing.
you mean they want to steal all our wealth? Like, I'm going to go to the chat. Does anybody even in our chat know what the World Economic Forum is? I know it's demonized and people freak out about it, but what is it?
Oh, they're not stealing my wealth. I can tell you
They're
that.
they're not out to steal anybody's wealth. What is the WEF? What is it?
It's a globalist Nazi organization.
They're
to
not
take the world
Nazis. They're
over.
not Nazis.
Well, you don't think Klaus Schwab's not a Nazi?
Trumpinator.
You
They
don't
want to
think-
control
you
the
don't think he's
population.
not-
How?
he's a- you
John,
don't think he's
John,
not
wait
a
a second.
card-carrying
Trumpinator,
Nazi?
the idiot Trumpinator, Mr. Brain Damage. Like, what is the WEF?
Rick, call him by his proper name, Orange Orangutan.
The World Economic Forum is an economic think tank. It's a bunch of these. It's rich people. It's people who run corporations. It's world leaders. They fly to Davos and they sit around and they meet and they talk about ideas. Now, ideas can be dangerous in themselves, but they formulate ideas. But they don't formulate policy there. There's no legislation, John. Let me finish. John, they formulate. John, I'm taking you away from the microphone so you don't interrupt me. They come up with ideas. That's all they do. It's a think tank where they bounce stuff off and talk about economic theory. And overlaid into that, of course, are social issues. That's what they do. And John, what is the equivalent over on the Russian side? Do they have anything like that?
Same thing.
No, they have
Similar.
the St. Petersburg Economic Forum.
Similar.
And
Similar.
does anybody ever talk about that? They sit around. You know what? I've watched them. They talk about exactly the same stuff, in exactly the same ways. It's just that they have the St. Petersburg Economic Forum, a forum where you talk about stuff, and we have the World Economic Forum. But people just get it in their heads, like they think that they control stuff. As an organization, they don't really control anything at all.
Well, then answer it to me, Rick. They fly in on all their private jets.
Yeah,
and
blah
they
blah
talk
blah
about
blah. I know,
global
and that makes for
warming and
lots of
carbon
clicks
tax.
for
They fly in,
Rebel.
And
Yeah.
they're the elites of the world. And when they deny, and I should be there with Rebel News, they deny reporters answering basic, reasonable questions. Ezra Levant, Sheila Gunn Reid, they are elites. I don't need an elite running my life, Rick. I can run my
They're
own
not,
life.
John.
Alberta,
The people
Ontario.
at the World Economic Forum doesn't run your life. They don't have the authority or the mandate to do any of that. They don't have any authority to. They don't pass any laws there.
Then why did Klaus Schwab brag 2 years ago about implementing the Parliament of Canada with Justin Trudeau in Freeland and having all these
All
liberal
he's
members of
referring
Parliament
because
bought
John, and all what he's referring to there is that they have various people who are members of the World Economic Forum, and he was saying that they've got these various politicians who are members of the WEF who are also in the Canadian government. But it doesn't
Well,
mean
guess
that
what?
they're
In
controlled.
1776, in the United States, you would have been hung for treason for that in Canada. You can't serve two masters, my friend. You
They
can't.
don't,
You
John.
can't be part
John,
of the
they-
Canadian Parliament.
That's
and
not
then be
the.
part of that.
I
No, it doesn't
understand
work
what
for me.
John,
No, sorry.
John. I understand what you're getting at, but the World Economic Forum is not the master per se because it's not a nation state, nor do they control countries. It's just a think tank. It's a bunch of people sitting around talking about ideas. People don't like it. a lot of people because they see rich people who get together. It's like a business networking thing. And so they can go there and network and come up with ideas, but that's what it is. It's a distraction largely from the larger concerns, which is what's going on with our own government here, which is what we need to be focused on and saying, we don't like this, we don't like that. Maybe we don't even like, the things that they talk about at the World Economic Forum. So we need to address those issues at home politically. But when you've got people who think that the World Economic Forum controls the world, they don't. In fact, they don't control anything other than controlling the conversation that they have at the World Economic Forum, where they set the agenda and say, we're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about this. But then at the end of these forums, they don't vote on anything. They don't come up with like laws. They don't have the authority to pass any laws or direct policies. It's not like the United Nations, and even the United Nations. Even the United Nations doesn't really have ultimate authority in very many respects over a lot of countries. It's just I get how people, and Klaus Schwab. I mean, you couldn't ask for a cliche of evil personified in any more dramatic way than in Klaus Schwab. I mean, he looks like a villain out of a movie.
Darth Vader, Rick.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, so I get it, but stop watching the show and get focused on the real problems and the real solutions. And the solution to our problems is dealing with things on the home front. And you know what that means? It means you got to get involved. But people don't. I mean, right now, tonight, we're seeing, John, you called me about this, Chandra Arya, right, the Liberal MP who's being told by the Liberals that he's not allowed, he's going to be barred from running for the Liberal leadership, right? And then people are concerned that the Liberal Party has been infiltrated in some way by Chinese interests or Chinese nationals or the Chinese government or whatever, or by India or this or that, okay? Well, you know what? You know why, John, they're winning? Do you know why they're winning? Because they're involved. Because they went out and they got Liberal Party memberships. And they go there together as a community practically in many ridings. They get organized and they get involved in the political process. And that's how they affect policy and platforms within the party, because they're involved. But you know what I see? I see a lot of whiners and complainers, and I've said for years, sitting right here, if you want to affect change, you have to get involved. You want to make change within the political sphere, then get involved with a political party, join, attend their meetings, get involved in their policy, the process of coming up with the party platform, and affect change there. And then carry that forward into the election, get your candidate elected, and they'll enact that platform if you get your government elected. And even right now, if you wanted to affect what's going on within the Liberal Party itself, anybody can join the Liberal Party. And anybody can vote. In fact, they're so wide open, and this is a problem, they allow people from other countries who aren't even Canadian to vote in the leadership race. That, I think, is a problem. That's a change that needs to be made. But if you want to affect that change, then you have to get involved in the process. And you're not going to change that by worrying about what's going on at the World Economic Forum. You need to get involved at the grassroots level, the regional level, in your local electoral district with these parties and say, I don't like this and I want this change, and we shouldn't be letting foreign people from foreign countries to cast ballots in this leadership race to decide who's going to be the next Prime Minister of Canada, even before the next election. This process isn't good. We need to change that. But you're going to do that by getting involved here in Canada at the grassroots level, and you can affect real change there. But not if you're just going to walk around or sit here and complain in the chat about Klaus Schwab. That's not going to change a thing.
Rick, I can tell you, from Alberta, my family, Manson, Sturdal, Crummy, we've been in the province 115 years. My grandfather, World War I veteran, and he didn't just fight for Alberta. He fought for the Dominion of Canada. I wouldn't, it's John Q. Manson private. I wouldn't exist without him. He made it back. We've always been. I was on Ralph Klein's 2 mayoralty campaigns in Calgary. I mean, talk as a teenager, talk about fighting. I've always been in the political realm, good, bad, and different, whether it be NDP, Liberal, Conservative, Democrat, Republican. And I mean, I've tried to make a difference. And, we're all trying to make, Rick, here's the bottom line. I don't care. Here's the bottom line, Rickster. If you're from the West Coast, East Coast, we're all Canadians. Okay, from British Columbia, Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Ontario, BC, the Northwest Territories, Nova Scotia, we're all Canadians. We need to link together more now than we ever did before, because here's a big thing, Rickster. The auto industry in Ontario is a multi-trillion-dollar industry in North America. The oil business in Alberta is trillions of dollars. Lumber in British Columbia, fishing, Quebec. I mean, we've got to stand together in strength and support this. We've got to all support one another, Rick.
Yeah, we'd have to get through this. I think the country is worth saving. That's me. And if you want to affect change, if you have a problem with the system, then change the system. But change it properly. Change it through the democratic process. Change it. It takes time. I'll tell you this though. It's a lot less painful to do it using the system than it is to tear the system down and bring in I don't know what on the other side. Because these people who are engaged in this relentless assault against this country, they're not really telling you what they're going to offer on the other side. They're spending a whole lot of time trying to undermine your faith and trust in the system, your confidence in the system. And while telling you that, complaining about people who, insult the country and sit there and say death to Canada. But if you really think about it, these people who are sitting there saying that Canada is not even a real thing. It's not a real place. Think about it for a moment before you buy into this, because you know why, John? Because it is, but no, John, a lot of people are buying into it, and it's making the rounds again right now. And there's a big push on right now to get these cancerous tumors of thought into people's minds, where they're going to metastasize into something really destructive. The point of the matter is, John, what I'm getting at is, if on the one side you've got people in the streets chanting death to Canada, and then the people over here complaining about the people chanting death to Canada are also trying to destroy your country. So what the hell is the difference? And then you better start wondering, maybe they're actually working for the same damn thing, if you think about it. Or a different version of it.
The big difference when John Hugh Manson out of Rimbey, Alberta, private, fought in World War I for Canada. He was gassed with mustard gas in France, came back. I wouldn't exist if he'd been shot or dead. I exist because of my grandfather and his marriage with my grandmother and my dad. Mm-hmm. And you know what he did? Rick, I could just cry. He fought for the dominion.
Trumpinator. You know what, Trumpinator? Where's my...
on the line for this country.
Trumpinator, you're corrupt, okay? You're a troll, you're an operative, and you're in there every night. You're the one trying to F Canada. You don't like your country. You hate the country. That's why you're in there every night. You're tearing the country down. You're in there crapping all over the country every single night. That's your job. Go to it, my friend. But you are the corrupt one. You are sitting there helping people who want to destroy Canada. You might as well go out and join the people in the streets right now chanting death to Canada, because that's what you are. It's, you just put the word Trump in your name so that they think that you're some sort of a patriot. But you, sir, are not, if you're even a sir. You're a coward because you don't use your real name. You're a freaking coward. And you're an enemy of the state. You're an enemy of Canada.
You're
Back to
saying
you,
that
John.
to me.
No, this is Trumpinator, not you.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
No, I love you.
Oh, okay.
You're my friend. You're my friend. We disagree on some things. We disagree on some things, but you're my friend. Trumpinator's a jerk.
Well, you know, Rick, I admire your honesty. I admire your integrity with Brendan Kennedy for bringing the channel back. And we don't always agree. You're in Ontario. I'm in Alberta. But first and foremost, you're an Ontarian. I'm an Albertan, but yeah, when we become
you, Billy
under
Mustang.
attack, my
I love
hockey
Canada.
stick, my hockey stick, and my oil jet is right out there defending with you, my friend.
Yeah, man.
And the orange orangutan is, he needs to get his, how many times has he been bankrupt, Rick?
I don't know. I lost count.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 14?
Well, I'm not here to hammer on his.
I'm not either. I'm not either. But
his shortcomings as a human being.
Disappointed.
I'm just saying. I'm just not. This is what he's doing to our country. Not acceptable, and other countries too, for that matter. Like all countries. There we go. That's right, Trump. You keep it coming there, my friend. That's right. I've touched a nerve in Trumpinator. He's on the attack now. He says I'm an idiot.
Rick, I told you earlier today we are going to come through this when Trump and you know, F Mr. Orange Orangutan.
Hey, I got John. I got. Yeah, okay. Thank you. You can call back. I got a call coming in. I got another call. Love you too. Oh, we lost that call. Nope, they're gonna have to call back. I hate it when that happens. Just couldn't get off the line quick enough. Before it bounced over, then we lost the call. But they'll call back. Yeah, come on, Trumpinator, where are you? There you are. You attacked me, he says. You're attacking me every night, constantly, and attacking our country. And I take offense to that because I love Canada. I love my country. I'm a true patriot. I'm not an enemy of the state. I want to fix problems, but I don't hate my country. There we go. Hang on a sec here.
Kitty.
Hey, Kitty. Welcome back to the show.
Oh, you gotta love me tonight. I have a question / observation.
Yeah.
Everybody is spending so much time going on and not liking what Trump said. Oh, I don't like it either. Mm-hmm. Everybody in that way, not a word is being said about Trudeau. Not a peep about the past 10 years.
I don't know about that, Kitty. I don't think that's true.
No, I want to finish.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not a word is being said about what he did. Trump didn't cause this problem. Trudeau
Yes, he did. Yes, he is.
Trudeau caused the problem.
No.
The Liberal government caused the problem. The Liberal government is the one that slacked off on border security.
No, that's a load.
And
that's
also,
a
if I might also add,
mm-hmm.
How come at the trucker protest, not one incident, not one arrest for damaging property, for assault, for anything? Not one. What are the charges? Oh, wait. The charges are.
Kitty,
just a minute.
Kitty.
I want to finish.
No, stay on topic. Stay on topic.
I am.
No, that's not. No, you're conflating things. There's
one
issue.
Let me finish what I'm saying.
You go ahead. Hurry up.
The past 10 years, but and especially at the trucker protest, that's when I got really worried. Okay,
yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, this is a bit much, but it's okay to wave flags and say death to Canadians and this and that and pray in the streets and the whole bit. That's okay. It's okay for them to block infrastructure. It's all right for them to assault women.
That's our problem. That's our problem, not Trump's.
That's right. Exactly my point. Okay, the past 10 years of Trudeau doing things his way to teach us Canadians. Oh, let's not forget the immigrants.
That's our problem, not Donald Trump's. That's not the issue.
Exactly my point.
That's not the issue.
While everybody is focusing on what Trump said, so many times. I mean, I cannot go on my feet, but I see nothing.
They've got the same damn problems in the United States, the exact same problems. The exact same problem.
My point is that Trudeau, he's the man at the top. Okay, the captain of the ship always is responsible for everything the government, yes, all the government voted for it. And I might add all the government, including the Conservative Party. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the bottom line is this. Trudeau's decisions over the past 10 years have caused the border crisis, have caused so many innumerable problems that it would take me an hour to wrap them off in a phone call. Trudeau is the one that made the decisions.
Donald Trump is the problem, and you got to. I'm not just going to give you a half an hour to just talk. So get to the point, and then we'll have the discussion.
Yes, I'm trying to get to the point. Now, the bottom line is this: Trudeau is the one. His decisions have created the border crisis, have created the drug problem, have created the immigration problem. His refusal to make proper decisions.
Our border.
Is
what border crisis are you talking about?
Obviously, our lax borders, people able to come and go, criminals crossing the border both ways.
Whose responsibility is the U.S. border?
On our side, we are responsible for ours. On their side, they are responsible for theirs.
So why is Donald Trump imposing a 25% tariff on us because he's got a border problem?
Well, I'm not talking about the tariff. What I'm talking about is how all people are worried about is what Trump said.
No, I'm worried about what he's doing.
They are not looking at what caused it, which is the past 10 years. In order to solve a problem, you got to look at what caused it. What caused it is Trudeau and the Liberals in order to fix it.
No, this is Donald Trump and the United States is responsible for the U.S. border, period. It's not our job to secure their damn border.
That's what I'm saying. It's our job to protect our side. It's their job to protect their side.
I'm talking about, so this doesn't make any sense. This is upside down world that you're presenting here again,
no,
Kitty,
it
respectfully.
What I'm pointing out is that the past 10 years of Trudeau decisions, which it is his. He's the captain of the ship.
Whatever Trudeau decided to do up here over the last 9 years is irrelevant. Because that's our problem.
No, it's not. Look at how we're living, Rick. It's not irrelevant. How many 10 cities are irrelevant?
That's our problem, not Donald Trump's. I'm talking about
my point.
What?
The only
You're not
thing
making
that
sense,
we are
Kitty,
focusing on is what Trump has said.
What do 10 cities in Canada have to do with a 25% tariff and making Canada the 51st state?
I wasn't talking about the 51st.
But that's the subject
state.
Here tonight. That's what we're talking about. So what are you
doing?
I
know. Every night, you see, but the thing is, what we should focus on is, okay, what caused it? Every country in the world is looking at us going, holy crap, like what a prime minister they got.
Look
at this guy.
Again, focus.
I am trying to finish what I'm saying. The past 10 years of Trudeau's decision has caused what's happening now. If Trudeau had been a good prime minister, if he had made the proper decisions, if he hadn't been such a little dictator of refusing to even come out and talk to people.
Okay, but
if he hadn't have broken the law by calling an illegal
I'm not disagreeing with any of what you're saying, except that this has nothing.
Right. So
this doesn't have anything to do with what Donald Trump is doing to us now. It doesn't have anything to do with Trump, what you're talking about.
My point is that all people are thinking of is what he said. It's like the past 10 years didn't happen. Trump is saying what he is saying now because of the past 10 years, because he and everybody else that is not in Canada has been watching all of this farce go on, has been watching this imitation of a prime minister make constant decisions that are only for benefit of the MPs, of himself.
It's not his. It doesn't matter. You know, it wouldn't matter if Trudeau was, you know, I don't know, like Kitty. It's not his business. It's not his affair. He has no business sticking his nose in up here with regard to any of that. That's our problem. He's got his own problems he should deal with on his side of the border. I don't like a lot of what goes on down in the United States, but I'm not sitting here calling for, you know, tariffs to to invade or annex the United States because I don't like their social policies or their economic policies per se, that's on their side. And it's not up to us to secure the United States border any more than it would be appropriate for us to say to the United States, hey, you know what? We want you to invest more to make sure that you don't let people from the United States into Canada. No, it's up to us to secure our border. That's why when...
Yes, I know.
Well, this is upside down world again. So people
No,
are sitting there saying,
isn't.
you got to fix your border. That's why Trump doesn't like you.
No, he's got to fix his side, and we got to fix ours.
Precisely.
And
So
that
we're in
is
agreement.
something, exactly, that's what I've been trying to say. And that's why I'm saying we're so focused on what Trump said. Everything else is like, it's not there, it doesn't exist. It's, ooh, no, past 10 years at Trudeau didn't happen. No, it doesn't matter, not relevant. Well, it is, because it's how come we are here where we are.
Okay.
Who could take Canada seriously when we have Trudeau? If anybody says that Canada should be taken seriously with Trudeau as a prime minister, they're a liberal.
Okay. Well,
Seriously.
I'm no fan of Trudeau, as you know. So
No, it's not a case of not being a fan. Okay, I don't do fan stuff. All right, this guy has. We are within a hair of having this country permanently wrecked as it stands right now with the debt we have. Okay, it's going to be our grandchildren paying it off, maybe, depending how much more damage he does. And now we have Carney that's going to come in. Like what I'm saying is like priorities. It's like, okay, we'll look at it this way then. What's more important, what Trump said or saving Canada? In order to save Canada, we have to look at what has happened. You can't fix a problem, say, well, we have a problem with this, but I don't want to know what happened in the past, so I'll know how to fix it. No, don't want to go there.
okay,
No, it doesn't work that way.
we certainly have to fix our problems. I'm not disagreeing with you.
You know, no, we got a lot, and like they're not caused by you or me or any other citizen. They're caused by the government. The reason why this is happening now is because of the government. Trudeau has made
Wait. The reason this is happening, what is this? What are you referring to?
Well, obviously, what Trump said, since that seems to be the major thing of
importance.
I'm thinking, holy crap! You know what? Everyone focusing on what Trump said.
You
the
think
Liberals are gonna win again.
Trump wants to make us the 51st state because we have tent cities?
No, I never said that.
Well,
and I didn't mean it, and that's very silly. No, of course not.
Okay, so
and I really, there'd be so much, like I say, paperwork that would have to be done. It's not like they can just swoop in here. Although, mind you, if they tried, they'd find a bunch of soldiers that are wearing nose rings and have long hair and don't want to break their fingernails. Like that's what we got for military now.
Rage, see, okay, I'm gonna jump off here, Kitty, because I know some other people are trying to call in. Okay, love you.
Okay, no problem.
I got to wrap my head around what you were saying. Thanks.
Okay.
All right. Why can't we just do what Trump asks? Says Raging Against the Machine. What? What does he want us to do? He wants. It's not just about the border. It's about. What does he? He says that they subsidize us to the tune of $250 billion, which isn't true. They don't. It's not true. The trade deficit isn't even that high. So I don't know what we're supposed to do, because Raging Against the Machine, it isn't just us. He's doing it to all these other countries as well. I have my own thoughts on why he's doing it, but it's not a simple matter of just us, just do what he wants, because it's not even clear what it is that he wants. It's just, he wants the country, I guess. He really does want to take us over. And he said so today. He wants us to be a state. Go ahead, you're on the air. Who's this?
It's Dragon.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, doing good. Doing good.
Good.
You know what?
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed that Trump said something along the way that he wanted to change actually the flag if he has to assimilate everyone.
Yeah, he can't take over any more countries. There's no more room for stars.
Yeah, well,
They're out of room on the
to
flag.
me, I mean, is he Napoleon or a psychopath? I mean, I'm not trying to be off board here, but I mean, geez, Trump, slow mo, man, slow down.
Our
You're going into a
art of kindness says Trump needs to liberate Canada. Liberate us from what? Like, what is better about the United States than Canada? In many respects, it's a lot worse. Guys, it's a lot worse down there in many ways. They're closer to a civil war than even us, except for what they're kind of setting off here right now. They've got bigger problems with poverty and homelessness than we have here, by far. They have an even bigger drug problem than we have here, by far. They have much bigger tent cities, by far. Their roads in many places suck. They're like the roads in Canada versus the roads in the USA, way worse, especially in Democrat states. I've driven all the way across the United States. I know, because I've driven, and a lot of truck drivers would know too. A lot of roads and a lot of places are really, really bad. They've got infrastructure problems. Okay, they've got bigger crime problems. They have way more mass shootings than we have up here, even proportionally. Way more mass killings. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on and on. It's not really, I would say, fair to compare apples and oranges. I often stick up for the U.S., even in the face of a lot of these problems that they face. But Canada is a kinder, gentler nation. We're not steeped in the blood of conflict the way the United States is. Our country wasn't created through bloodshed, violence, war, the way the United States was. We're a country of compromise and conciliation and tolerance. That's been the hallmark of what it means to be Canadian. That's been the hallmark of our nation state. That's what I want to preserve. They're not liberating us from squat. There's no liberation there to be had. They're no freer. And I still argue, even though some people think that we're living in some sort of a communist tyranny right now, compared to what they have in the States, especially now under Trump, no, we have a far superior system because the Prime Minister has far less power. He can't just write an executive order like Trump did. He came into office, Dragon, and signed 200 executive orders. Those are laws written by one guy or his team, right? And there's no debate there per se. People didn't vote for all 200 of those executive orders. You don't know what you're going to get from that. Those should be used very sparingly. But he was just handing them out like, I don't know, Tic Tacs or something. It was disgusting, actually, because that in itself is an assault on democracy. That's authoritarianism. That's very autocratic. That's one guy making laws. He's acting like an emperor.
No, he is.
So I
can see a convergence with the way he's acting. He's kind of using the convergence or inspiring himself from doing it in certain ways.
Well, yeah, and Trumpinators like, well, what did Biden do, Rick? Well, Biden signed 160 over 4 years. He signed 9 on his first day in office and was criticized for doing that. 9 on day one. Trump signed 200 in day one. Never thought I'd see the day. That is authoritarianism. That's not democracy. But then, a lot of Americans, even who have been on this program, learned people, have, corrected me from time to time when I've said that the United States is democracy, because it isn't. Not technically. It does have a form of democracy. And I think when the power is used properly, it functions as a democracy. But when you have a president come in and with a Sharpie sign off on 200 EOs in day one and just getting started, that's not democracy.
Yep, that's not democracy at all.
No, that's an abuse of power.
And look at it this way, guys. I mean, in a more microscopic type of point of view, if you will. Since we have one of the Amazon warehouse in Montreal, Laval, actually that got unionized at some point, it was decided by Amazon in America to close all 7 warehouses. So how much does it going to get you your stuff when you're, for those who live in Quebec or in my surrounding, that's going to get you a chain supply problem here.
Yeah.
And not only that, that's going to cost you even more to, purchase stuff online.
Yeah. So yeah,
that's to the 25% tariff.
So yeah, I know that there was some union busting that was going on there in Quebec with the Amazon warehouses, and that's why because they had the first unionized warehouse employees in Quebec, and now we're seeing Amazon move in and or actually move out because they're shutting those facilities down, right? Processing facilities. So.
Yeah, from my research, it's Laval, in Laval City. It's just next to Montreal. I could probably try to get some people from there talking if I can get there and see their perspective and see how that goes.
Yeah, and so, Isabel says if we had a PM with strength, Trump would not have started this. And I would be inclined to agree with you, Isabel, but not really, no, because it's not just Canada. He's doing it like everywhere to everybody. It's not just Canada. People who are sitting here thinking that all we have to do is like do something with the border and then it'll be okay. No, I don't. Ultimately, I'm hopeful that we're still going to get to a place of resolution on this. But no, this isn't that simple. It wouldn't matter who is the prime minister. It wouldn't matter. He's doing it to everyone. Mexico, China, Colombia now. European Union countries. He's laid the law down over there. Russia. Russia we're at war with, so I can understand the tactic there. But Canada, I'm sorry. And this isn't just about tariffs. Like he's literally on Air Force One today saying that Canada should just be a state, which is counter. It doesn't make sense either, because on the one hand, he's worried about all the bad people we have here that he doesn't want over there. So he wants to take over our country, and then he's going to get all the bad people that he'll have to deal with. So he'll have all, like, I want a secure border, so let's get rid of the border. This is ridiculous.
Well, this is where I would probably suggest Trump to go back to the Canadian history and go back to 1867, where there's the British North American Act that was signed. So, yes, thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Yeah, because, Trump has even said, like, he doesn't even care if Poilievre is elected. He said maybe a win, maybe he won't. He doesn't care what he says. That's what he said about Poilievre. So it's not just Trudeau. He's got a bigger agenda here.
I mean, yeah. This is basically there's something in his mind that is wrong.
Yeah.
I mean,
and Linda, Panama
Americans.
Canal. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't want to piss off people from America, our good viewers. But yeah, I mean, sorry, but Trump is completely delusional, and there's something wrong with him. I think, and I'm not sure, but the bullet that went too close from him kind of probably triggered something in his mind and went full blown something like psychopath, or I don't know, but it's wrong.
I think actually the assassination attempt, that bullet, yeah, I think it has affected him in a way, because I think now he's just kind of like no holds barred now, because they actually tried to kill me, so whoever they are, and I just don't think he cares anymore. So he's just...
And did he say something about, like, that's the Democrat who did try to kill me and stuff like this? That's what he said.
So, yes.
So who's the Democrat in the Canadian politics? The Liberals. So you got your enemy here, too.
And see, I need to clarify, too, when I was saying that, when I was talking about Dugin and the war on liberalism, I'm not talking about like a war on the Liberal Party. I'm talking about the concepts of classical liberalism. That's what is under assault here, you see, because for that ideology, what they're getting at is there were like three main political ideologies: fascism, communism, and liberalism. And after World War II, fascism was essentially defeated, if you will, in the Nazis. Communism persisted but failed with the fall of the Soviet Union, leaving liberalism, which has been an ideology that has been spreading around the world, right? Which, in various forms. So this new ideology is designed to defeat liberalism. It's fourth political theory. It is the combination of fascism and communism coming together in a fusion, using only elements of it that are deemed to be the most effective, and I would say the most destructive. And the whole idea is to attack classical liberalism. Well, our very country was founded. I'm not talking about, there is absolutely a concern and an assault on the progressive woke ideas or overlay onto liberalism, which is not classical liberalism. That's a shift further to the left of the spectrum and more into authoritarianism. But our country was based on the ideas of individualism, freedom, rule of law, democracy, these ideas. That's what classical liberalism is. That's what Canada has always been about, because that is where you find true freedom for the individual. But what this is, and what Dugin advocates for, and I would argue what Trump is largely engaging in here, is an end to classical liberalism. That's why Dugin and the Duginists, the advocates of fourth political theory, that's why they see an ally in MAGA and Trump and this new movement within the U.S. It's to do away with classical liberalism. The very things that I've always held dearest to my heart, the very things that protected us over time from things like lockdowns, mask mandates. Those were the things that used to protect us, but those are the things that also fell by the wayside. Because I would also argue that even Trudeau and the Liberals have deviated and veered away from those principles, the ideas, the ideals of individualism. That's the key to everything. That's where you find true freedom. And in fact, I've always argued that unlike identity politics, that's where you find true diversity, is within individualism, judging each person on their own merit as an individual and not as a part of a group. Every single person is judged individually, and the individual is paramount. And each individual then within the society finds that it is actually in their own best interest to interact in a positive way with the collective. But as an individual, your rights are protected as a paramount thing, which is most important, which is also why when you're the superpower, you need to protect the little guy. You need to stick up for the rights of the individual and the person who is smaller than you. not engage in a mobocracy, not let your power corrupt you so that you dictate to other people. It's your job to protect the rights of the individual. That has to be paramount. But when that's all rejected, you get collectivism. And because the collective becomes the most important thing, there can be no dissent. You get authoritarianism. It's baked into the system. That's why communism and fascism never actually work. And that's why people end up being oppressed, even as they're being promised freedom. They throw that word around loosely, co-opt it, use it, repurpose it, and they deceive you with it. And that's, again, what seems to be going on here right now. Because what Trump is engaging in is authoritarianism and autocracy, telling the little guys, you have to do what I say because I've got the nukes, I've got the F-35s, I've got the biggest economy, and if you don't do what I say, I'm just going to sanction you and I'm going to tax you, and you just have to bend the knee and screw the free markets. I'm going to manipulate the markets. I'm going to tell the Saudis to tank the price of oil to get what I want in Ukraine. That's not proper. That's insider trading out in the open. And I'm not sure that the Saudis are going to do it anyway, because I was just watching, a member of the royal family from Saudi Arabia saying, well, it's not really in our interests to manipulate the markets to that degree. So they might not do what Trump wants them to do. And I think a lot of countries you're going to find a lot of countries are going to stand up to this and say, I'm sorry, but no. You deal with your problems at home, and you keep blaming all of your problems on everybody else. You deal with your crap. And Canada's in that boat right now too.
Yep.
That's where I stand, man, because I advocate for true freedom and individual rights and freedoms. And I do believe that our rights need to be enshrined in the Constitution as coming from a higher place, a God, who doesn't necessarily need to be defined by a particular religion, as long as we understand that there is a God up there and people are free to practice their religion in any way that they want. But our rights can't come from directly government, or an autocrat or a dictator, or one person who has a Sharpie and just signs off on laws. We need to be protected because our rights come from the higher place. And it's written in here. It really is. But if you don't believe in that and on any level, then, rights are limited because you have to protect the rights of other people as well. My rights as an individual don't usurp your rights as an individual. So my rights only go so far. And so, of course, there are limitations built into that. And in order to protect all people as individuals, then there are some limits on what you can do. You can't murder somebody. That's what laws are for. That's what the rule of law is about. And I mean, it goes on, and these are complex ideas. But to get to this, it took not 150 years or 200 years, or even 400 years. It took thousands of years. From Socrates to today, it's about philosophy and the ideologies that flowed from the best of ideas. Legal precedents being set over a long period of time, entire systems set up, economies, what worked, what didn't, the lessons of time, over time. But of course, through all things, there is corruption, and things do deteriorate, and we take things for granted over time, and we let things deteriorate, and that's what's happened here. We had it too good for too long. People took it for granted. We outsourced our responsibility only to politicians and others, many of whom have taken advantage of the situation, and they've gotten us into a mess, and we need to take back our agency, but that means you have to get involved, and you can't just leave it to other people, because the people who are involved right now are people you don't agree with, which is why you think the system is corrupt, because you're not getting what you want. But that's only because they know how to use the system, they got involved, and you didn't. and it's a democracy, and so you're losing and they're winning, and some people are upset and they don't know how to use the system because they're not well educated and they're listening to the wrong people, and they think that the only thing to do now is tear it all down, and they don't believe in it anymore, and so it's going to be replaced by people who are going to bring you to a place where you don't have freedom at all, and you're going to give it all up for what you think is going to be stability through some sort of a dictatorship or a communist government that'll come in, or some sort of a dictator or some sort of hybrid thing, or you think Donald Trump is going to save you by annexing the whole country? That's not going to solve anything. That just means we inherit all of their problems and they inherit all of ours, and we're going to get a mishmash, and I think overall we'll end up being a lot worse off. And you're going to miss this place when it's gone. Stand up for your country, folks. Stand up for your country.
You know, it goes along with what the British officer Sir John Glove said on his thesis, that lifespan of an empire is about approximately 250 years.
Well, some people say that. I don't know that it has to be that way. And certainly the United States is under a lot of pressure right now, and that's largely what it's about too. It's the United States trying to survive in the face of challenges from other countries around the world. And so Trump is, going out there with a big bat, and he's starting to bash people. It's the wrong approach. It's the wrong approach. Wrong approach.
Pretty much.
And with this
well,
AI...
I will leave you with a good word, guys.
Yeah.
All right? Don't feel like a rat in a cage, you know? You know the expression of being in a cage, electrifying cage. You know, the rats always get shocked and they don't know who to blame, because actually it's the cage and the guy in the big robe that is the problem. So, yeah. Brace yourself, guys, and just stick together, all right?
Okay, thanks, Dragon. Have a great night.
Also.
Okay. Love you, man. See ya. Dragon in Montreal. Yay. Is that Al? QK? Yeah, we have the same problems. Yeah, we do. We have the same problems as they have in the States. In fact, I would say they have them on a larger scale, because they have bigger cities and more socioeconomic problems, And Trump's sitting there saying, you fix your border because you've got all these immigrants coming and blah, 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 blah. They've got the same problems over there, man. We can make the same arguments right back to them. We really do. We've got illegal immigrants flowing over the border from the United States into Canada. We do. Somehow we'll get through it. I don't know. I'm just so disappointed in this guy. So disappointed in this guy. But I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. I'm not. This Liberal MP Chandra Arya banned from running in the Liberal Party leadership race. He raised the money, and he says that by banning him, he wonders about the legitimacy of the leadership selection or election process. Yeah, I don't know that the Liberal Party has a really legitimate process for selecting a leader. I know a lot of people are like, well, here's a picture of him. I guess he moved to Canada about I don't know when he moved to Canada. But his English is a little bit broken because he's from India and he doesn't speak French, and people are like, oh, they're making fun of him. But I'll say this, I'm going to just come right out and say it. I think there's a lot of bigotry surrounding the criticism leveled at him. Just because his language skills are not as polished as some people would like. And he doesn't speak French, and he says, well, that doesn't matter. In that interview that he did, was it on CBC? it does matter in politics here. If you want to be the leader of a party and you want to be prime minister, it certainly helps if you speak French. That being said, you know, there is a double standard being employed here that people, I think, are not even really aware of. Like, it's people doing it. He's not the only one who... He has every right, whether he speaks French or not, to run for the leadership of the party. He has every right as a Canadian citizen to run for office. And I'll say this, at least he's getting involved. I wouldn't probably agree with a lot of the things or very much of anything that he would stand for politically or on, I don't know. I really doubt it. From what I've seen so far, I know that I don't agree with much of what he's had to say on the political front, but he has the right to run, and at least he cares enough to get involved, and he's involved in the system, and he knows that by getting involved, he can affect change. A change that you won't like, because, and he'll get it before you will, because he's involved. He moved to the country, hasn't lived here very long, and he's within spitting distance of the Prime Minister's office. Everybody just complains about it. And people mock him. Well, do so at your own peril, because it doesn't matter in this sense. This guy's involved. And he'll get way further because he's been elected to office, and he'll get further than the people complaining about him or mocking him. And, you know, he's not... There have been some very prominent people who have engaged in federal politics who didn't speak French. John Diefenbaker was not fluent in French, conservative prime minister. He tried at times to communicate in French, but he wasn't proficient. Lester Pearson, Liberal Prime Minister, he was the last unilingual Prime Minister. He served from 63 to 1968. And he couldn't speak French. Liberal Prime Minister in the 1960s, unilingual. This guy speaks English and Indian. He's bilingual. He just doesn't speak French. Pearson didn't speak French. You don't hear people mocking Pearson. Well, unless they're conservatives. Ed Broadbent, New Democrat. Do you remember Ed Broadbent? I certainly do. I grew up with him. He was very prominent with the NDP federally when I was a kid. Also, not really fluent in French, struggled with it. Preston Manning, leader of the Reform Party from Alberta. Not proficient in French. He was a candidate for the federally for the Reform Party. Could have become prime minister. Reform then folded into the Conservative Party. Not fluent in French. Stéphane Dion. He was leader of the Liberal Party for a while. Also not fluent in French. Kim Campbell. A lot of people forget about Kim Campbell. Conservative, first female Prime Minister of Canada. Not fluent in French. English. Just saying. And then I hear people making this big deal out of him not speaking French. Yeah, it's difficult to get elected these days if you don't speak French. But I'll say this. A lot of people in Canada speak his language. He speaks it. And he speaks English. He's one up. He's a couple up on me. I don't speak his language. I speak English. And I speak like that much French, and I speak that much Spanish. I was almost to the point where I could converse in Spanish years ago. I've lost it. Studied that in when I was in university and college. But again, folks, man, you want to make change, you get involved. Otherwise, go hang out at the donut shop and complain, I guess. But that's not how you change things. He's changing things. You might not like it. You don't like it. Get involved. It really is just that simple, and it's not difficult. But you're not going to Davos, and even if you did, even if you joined, these guys who are chasing these evil WEF members down the street, asking them real hard questions. A lot of that's just grandstanding and clickbait because that stuff's, it's just to the point where it's like you're watching some sort of a movie. It's just drama. Finding Mark Carney on the streets in Davos and chasing him down. And I mean, it's fair game to ask legitimate questions, but a lot of that's just like drive-by hit piece sensationalism. That's what it's come down to. And it's actually getting to be kind of distasteful, frankly, because it's very confrontational. It's not like legitimate, a lot of this stuff, and like not real legitimate questions. Not about policy or what are you thinking about this or how will this make a difference. It's all cliche crap. If you're going to chase somebody down the street to ask them questions, then ask them something that's going to be helpful. Not just pick a fight basically in the middle of the street or an argument or try to embarrass somebody. It's not helpful. But it's very entertaining. I'm just tired of this crap because it's not helping us. And we do need to get focused on dealing with the things in a realistic way. And politics is just deteriorated into fighting and attacking. I don't know if we'll ever get back. Just don't know. I've got other stuff, but it's getting late. And I think we hit on the main points tonight. We can pick things up tomorrow night where we left off. And I'm just going to check the chat here one more time before I sign off. I didn't look in the Rumble chat much. Let me just come over here before I leave. Check in on the chat, see how many people hate me tonight. Yeah, Linda says, I think French shouldn't matter. They have translators. Yeah, if you're a Canadian citizen, then you should have the right to run for office. I'm not sure. I would like it, I guess, if people who became cabinet members or ministers or, I think there might be some provision we should put in place so that you have to be born here. And maybe only have Canadian citizenship, not dual citizenship, if you want to be prime minister or a cabinet minister. But those are changes that could be made, and not without too much difficulty. But again, some people would just rather complain all day. What do we got in here? Raise standards, not tolerance. Says Stoic teacher. I think maybe we need a little bit of both right now because there's a lot of intolerance and bigotry out there, honestly, right now, too. To a degree that I never thought I'd see in this country. I was going to actually show you some stuff tonight, but I'll maybe wait for tomorrow with regard to that. CBC Brown, 44. If I were Chandra, I would just say, Tabernacle, we're in trouble. Is that French enough for you? Now we can start figuring out on serious issues. Yeah, CBC Brown 44. You can always tell when the conversation is interesting when Rick stays up past 9. That's true. Yeah, well, it wouldn't be... I think the show does get more interesting when we have a little bit of disagreement going on. And Be Lovely won a freaking flag for crying out loud and shamed for it. I don't know what flag you're referring to, Be Lovely. Not sure. And Johnny says, everything will be okay. Well, now I know we're in trouble. because if Johnny is telling me that everything is going to be okay, something's seriously wrong, because it's usually the other way around. Oh, with that, thank you, John. I appreciate your comment and your assurances tonight. I needed that. Maybe I'll sleep a little easier now. Johnny telling me that everything's going to be okay. Mr. Doom. The stock market's crashing. Everybody's going to be unemployed. Third nuclear war is on the horizon. Tomorrow we're going to get vaporized, and the aliens are coming to suck our brains, Rick. And Canada is screwed. But it's going to be okay. If you finally come around, see what it took for me to convince you. Know what it is? It's like whatever I say. That's all I had to do. I just had to use reverse logic. Just had to use reverse logic on Johnny. Whatever I say, he disagrees with. If I'm negative, he's positive. So, there you go. Love you guys. I'm going to leave you with our newest creation, MAGA Mars, by Maverick and the News Brothers. See you tomorrow night, 7 p.m. on the flip side.
He's got a plan, it's bold and grand, taking over land, sea and sand. Canada's ours, Greenland's in the mix, the Panama Canal's just another fix. But Mars, oh Mars, you pesky red sphere, your spying drones are making it clear. It's a threat to Earth, a cosmic sin, but don't worry folks, he'll make Mars great again. MAGA Mars, you're the 53rd state. Under Trump, your future is great. With Elon Musk and the Space Force too, we're slapping tariffs on your Martian crew. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. We'll impose sanctions, taxes, and fines. Martian exports know they're crossing the line. The Martians cry foul, but Trump doesn't care. He'll build a space wall floating up there. Elon's on board with rockets ablaze. The stock market's loving this Martian craze. He says, trust me folks, I know the deal. Martian gold is ours, this plan is real. MAGA Mars, you're the 53rd state. Under Trump, your future is great. With Elon Musk and the Space Force too, we're slapping tariffs on your Martian crew. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. Yeah, Mars hotels with golf resorts, intergalactic trade reports, a MAGA dome where Martians bow. We've got the best Martians, Trump says now. Fake news claims the plan's absurd, but Trump tweets back, it's the final word. Martian drones not on my watch. Space Force ready to kick it up a notch. MAGA Mars, you're the 53rd state. Under Trump, your future is great. With Elon Musk and the Space Force too, we're slapping tariffs on your Martian crew. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. So buckle up for the Martian fight. Trump's taking over the Martian night. It's all for freedom, it's all for the win. Oh, say can you see, he'll make Mars great again. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. So buckle up for the Martian fight. Trump's taking over the Martian night. It's all for freedom, it's all for the win. Oh, say, can you see? He'll make Mars great again.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.